Welcome to episode 10 of Studio Tapped, where we bring you an inside look of a website development and design studio. I'm Patrick Smith.
I'm Heather Acton.
And let's get the podcast started. So,
right.
Number 10, it's so exciting. We've crossing a threshold. It's like, it's 10.
Big 10.
Yeah, big 10.
Big 10.
So what was your favorite episode so far? No, just kidding.
8. Easy.
Yeah,
8.
yeah.
Yes.
So we were talking before we started this about topics, and I think the topic, and I may get the exact phrasing wrong, but I think we were just going to chat about pros and cons of running an agency. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was something I was thinking about this weekend. I think you were too. There's many good parts, and there's some painful parts, and I don't think sometimes all of them get talked about in a balanced fashion. So thought it would be nice to share some of the realities we found doing what we're doing.
I've got nothing but pros. My pro list is insane.
You are always overly positive.
I know.
I always feel like I'm bringing us down.
You are.
So I'll balance this out a little bit with some of the challenges. Maybe you can start.
Should I start with pros?
Start with the rewards.
The rewards.
What's wonderful about running an agency?
Well, God, there's so many. I'm trying to figure out how do I prioritize all the pleasure. So the easy way, or the way to set this up, is the contrast against the past. And so the first 13, 14 years, something like that, I was in corporate stuff and working for, I wouldn't say the man, I was just working for agencies, and it was fine. And I think when you're working in a corporate environment, at least for me, not everybody, but at least my perception was you're doing everything for the good of the organization, and what you want to do as an individual doesn't necessarily always translate into the work all the time. Every shop is different, every team is different, and so some places are better than others. A lot of your pleasure depends on or pain depends on your boss or your boss's boss. So that can drive a lot of things. You also don't really have a lot of say in terms of what accounts you're going to work on. There just may be a day where they decide to reorganize the teams, and so one day you're working on brand A, and the next day you're working on brand B, and your teammate may change as well. A good agency will keep good teams together. Sometimes you might have a great team, but just the way financials work and personalities and egos work, sometimes those things get rearranged just to rearrange them. So there's a lot of change, which is fine. None of it's bad, and there, I think for me, and this is something I saw, not a ton, but every once in a while, you'd have an idea, and, it leaves your desk or leaves your computer or leaves whatever, the conference room, and then it goes out and somebody else takes it and goes and sells it or tries to sell it, and then sometimes it's not necessarily theirs, or so I think they may put their best effort behind it, but sometimes if a client starts to beat it up, they might not have all the intimate knowledge of how to defend it or how to sell it or how to position it or all those kinds of things. So there's a lot.
Or if it does well, you never really get to see like the win that it got or things like that. Or?
If it does well, it should get produced.
Yeah.
If it's a good idea and the client likes it and the client can see the value in it, and the agency believes in it, then it should get produced. And then getting it produced is a whole other thing, from a concept board to an actual TV spot.
Would that come back to you though? I mean, if you think, and they would know it came from you, and that's good.
Yeah, and 99% of or 98% of the time, you're presenting stuff anyway. It's not like, but there are times when you present something in a presentation. Everybody talks about it's great, fine, and then like a week later you come back and the client liked it, but and I talked to the client today. They called and they said X, Y, and Z. Can we change this, change that? And we're like, why? We're not going to do that. And so it becomes a whole thing. It's not a big deal. It's the nature of. It is a big deal. But it's the nature of the business. What
But things don't always get translated the way that they would if the person that made it would be the one to present and share the concept.
A lot of things get lost in translation, and that's just the nature, I think, of it, no matter what you're doing. Sure. If you're probably any business, you know. And none of those things are the end of the world. It's just the nature of the biz. But what I love about doing what we do is a lot of that stuff kind of goes away because, you know, we're in control or we're on the front lines. For better or for worse, we almost have to. It's kind of a be careful what you wish for kind of thing, because now it's like, oh, you want to go sell this idea? Go ahead and sell it, you know, and you got to stand there. Yeah, you have to stand there and defend it, and so now it's kind of like juggling grenades. But so there's not a lot of things that get lost in translation, or very little does, or a lot less does. I do like the idea of control, and being able to control who we work with, you know, why we work with them, all those kinds of things. You know, our team's been pretty consistent over the last, well, at least the last year, but even beyond that. I mean, we've had consistent teams for extended stretches, and I would say that even 2 or 3 years ago, I think our team was probably more consistent than a lot of agency teams might be for that length of time. So I like the continuity of that. I like, you know, building a team. I liked watching people grow and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it wasn't like we were a huge group. We were 10 or 12 people, but it was nice. It was nice kind of watching that develop. So I think now it's the same kind of thing, trying to grow that and develop it in a little bit different form than where we were before. It's fun. So I like that. I like the idea. I'll tell you what I miss about the agency. The flip side. Having other teams, multiple other teams to critique work. I think there's healthy competition within agencies to try to, you know, outdo other people or other teams, or out, you know, maybe it's not so healthy sometimes, but I like, you know, I think that keeps you on your toes. I think you just keep learning from more people, or learning from people. I like the perspective of account people on, you know, it was valuable. And you got to just focus on just the creative when you're doing that. You know, now we're doing everything, which I like some of that too. You know, I like it also.
But it's a distraction from the best creative process. Yeah. If you're in a mode and your phone rings, it throws you off right then.
Client service. Yep. Put on that client service hat. Exactly. Yeah. So there's all those kinds of things. Then you have to throw on your HR hat, and then you got to throw on this hat, and then you got to. So it is a schizophrenic world, and it is really nice to sit down and just focus on ideas when the time allows. But yeah, so you know. I just want to contrast against some of the old stuff, and a lot of the stuff at in the corporate agency side. You know, now that I've been doing this for as long as I have been, I mean, I knew it probably about 2 months into doing my own thing. Those things are set up a certain way for a certain reason, you know. Sure. So even though it might not seem like it makes a lot of sense, when you get into the business, there is a reason why things are.
Now that you are the agency owner, and you want the same things from your employees or staff.
Yeah. So
makes sense.
Yep. So did I go over pros? I can't remember. So control.
You've just been so engrossed in the pros.
I know.
Now I'm curious to hear about the challenges.
Yeah, the pros. Well, here's the other thing too. The other pro, I think, from a client's perspective, and this doesn't always happen because big agencies can move fast at certain times and small agencies can move slow at certain times, but I think in general, I like producing stuff quickly. I mean, we used to work on campaigns sometimes, and just to get a concept out would take a year. I mean, I'd have to go through market research and all kinds of other things, and and for good reason. It wasn't like they were just sitting there burning money and wasting time, although it felt like that in the moment. But I like being able to produce something and getting it in the market and making it real fast. I would say a lot of the things that we work on, not all, but I mean within a couple months, even websites, you know, we're going from, you know, kickoff meeting or signed estimate to something online in 100 days, maybe 3 months, sometimes less.
Faster.
Yeah. So that's kind of fun. Yeah. So, and I like the other thing I too is I haven't taken advantage of this at all, or very little, but there's no rules. Like, no one could really tell us what to do, or like, hey, you can't go partner with this company because they're not part of our network, or we can team up with whomever we like. We could create things if we wanted to. I'm trying to think of a good example, because I haven't done anything like this in a while, but even the VR stuff, like, if I was at a regular agency, that'd be somebody else's department, somebody else's job, somebody else's everything else. It's their deal. If you have an interest in something, you can pursue it when you're doing your own thing. An example would be, this is in the 90s when the internets was coming out. We couldn't create a digital. The agency I was at couldn't have a digital department. Why? Because there was another agency within our network that did digital. So we couldn't sell. It wasn't that we couldn't sell digital ideas. We could sell them, but we had to have somebody else execute them. A different agency. Wow. It just got complicated.
Yeah. That would be actually. That's a huge. I would say, deterrent from innovation within an agency too. Like when we all have like this natural curiosity that we're all going to go look at things that we're hearing about, and to hear like, oh, you could, but won't do us any good because we work here and we can't do anything about it. It's like a false barrier, I would say.
Yeah, and I think a lot of agencies back again in the 90s, early 2000s, the ones that didn't integrate kind of digital workflows, digital process, digital everything early, got stung pretty hard, and you could see it in Chicago. There's a new crop of shops and healthcare specifically that kind of came about because I think some of the older shops probably didn't pivot fast enough, or they were focused on other things, just different priorities. So, some agencies have shrunk immensely, and some have gotten sold, and all that kind of stuff, while others have just kind of come through. And then obviously there's all kinds of new agencies that weren't around before 2005 or something like that. Yeah. So yeah. Cons?
Yes, like challenges.
Challenges?
Yeah, we're phrasing it challenges.
That's a really nice way.
A way that you could capitalize on something that's not so great about running an agency.
It sounds like bullshit, but
that was definitely my intent.
For me, I can only speak for myself because I know other people may like this, but my biggest con or challenge, is anything that has to do with accounting. Yes, I can put together an estimate. Yes, I can put together a proposal. Yes, I can send out an invoice. But just the mechanics of doing that, it drains me. And billing just drains me like nothing else, because all I want to do is make stuff, and then I have to stop and go, what do we do on this job? Okay, all right, let me go back. And it just pulling. Did so-and-so do their timesheets? Oh, that seems really high, or that seems really low. What happened on this? You're just trying to do this forensic accounting that it's not my strength. So that's my number one.
It's kind of in a way it's a good thing though. This is at this midpoint that we're at, right? We're not, obviously when you're freelancing you've got to do it, but if you work for an agency, obviously you don't have to touch it at all. And if the agency you're growing gets big enough, you also don't have to touch it, or you should. You'd hire somebody to do that.
My only goal is to get big enough that we can
hire a
CFO. We do have CFO. We have people that take care of the finances, but it's not enough. So that's my number one. That's an easy one. Number two is this is just kind of softer. There's not enough time. There's not enough time to do all the things that I want to do. My number one thing that I want to do is promote the agency, and I feel like I'm usually months behind where I haven't done any promotion besides the new website that's now a year old, which is hard to believe, and that's already out of date, and that's already so it's that constant updating of what's our, what's our communication strategy? What's our marketing strategy? What's our new business? Like all those parts and pieces just aren't in place. And I'm one of those people that I want to set it up and get it going, and I can see it in my head. But just sitting down and taking 4 hours a day for a couple days, it just doesn't happen.
Because you're executing too much on billable work.
Part of that. Part of it is picking up the phone. Part of it is having to do invoicing. Part of it's having to be an HR person.
Just
part of it's having to. Yeah. It's wearing all the hats, or a lot of the hats. So that's kind of the hard part. And if I could do anything, that would be all I would do. Would just be promotion, market to agency. My dream role. Excuse me. So I would love my fantasy is to replace myself with, have somebody be able to take over my role, or at least 75% of it. And so I can focus on that stuff, so we can kind of, it's just somebody's got to focus on the new business. I mean, we do have somebody focus on new business now, but up until about a month ago,
sure,
there was no focus on that. So do I have another negative? Other than that, I mean, those are the two big pain points. Yeah, there's little stuff all the time. It's just, but it's not really important. I can't think of anything on the top of my head, but. It's wanting to have, it's being able to have the time to promote things and get our name out there. That's a huge one in accounting. Other than that, I don't really have a lot of negative stuff. We've been in this office for a couple months, and we've texted this handyman like 5 times to come in and hang some pictures on the wall. They're still on the floor. That makes me crazy. Yeah. That doesn't matter.
That was probably him outside our door painting today.
Let's see. That's real. I mean, there's nothing else of real value that I can think of beyond that. Okay. I'm probably forgetting something, but I'll tell you the other one.
A challenge or
a challenge.
Reward? I had to think if I was phrasing it.
This would be kind of a maybe both. The reward of managing people. So I as much as I think that I want to be doing a lot of that, I think one of the challenges for me is I don't think I really want to do a lot of that. You know what I mean? I'd rather have people. I'm assuming people are as not motivated, but as focused is the wrong word too. But are in tune with what needs to happen on a day-to-day basis, and I don't like to have to police people or be a traffic cop and do all that kind of stuff. So that part of it I don't particularly love, but that's just me. That's not like a bad thing about the business necessarily. It's just my own personal.
Well, it's something that's good for people to be aware of if they're trying to do what we are trying to do. Mm-hmm. And the reality of, if you're a freelancer and you're thinking to start an agency, you've got a couple contractors, whatever, you've got a little bit of that managing other people, but not a ton of it. When it gets to the spot of, I've got 3 other people that I'm employing, or that report to me, and I've got to make sure they've got something to do and they're doing it well, and they're held accountable on a day-to-day basis. It's something to be aware of. Yeah. when you get to this point, that you kind of always think that people are going to come in and they're going to care like you do, they're going to work like you do, they're just going to get it, and the reality is it just isn't that way. So how do you get them to that spot, whether it's you or if you don't like doing it, another person that helps with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think having, I think the workaround for that right now is kind of what we're doing with a project manager, producer, and our new account person. So that I don't have to be, or you don't have to be checking in, or micromanaging is the wrong word, but just being on top of people on a day-to-day. It's hard to go from 50,000 feet to 500 feet 50 times a day, and or 50 times an hour. I mean, it's
but from their perspective too, as I'm thinking about our developers, they're not in the client calls, they're not in all the side conversations. Like sometimes they're just deep in dev, so it's hard to remember like oh, I know we have this coming in a few days, or, oh, I forgot about this overriding requirement that we stated way back in the proposal, side of it. So I think it's fair to think that if it's an area that I've surrendered it this last week, I basically mostly because I can't have everything in my head. So if there's somebody who's better to do that can be in touch with the team on a daily basis, sometimes every couple hours, I'm definitely willing to take that help because it's not something I'm good at. I would tend to not talk to anybody most of the day, except on Slack, apparently, based on our stats. But that's it's a good one to hand off if it's not feeling good.
Yeah. I've got one more pro.
Okay.
And it's because, I love people so much, right? I love helping. Helping people. Yes. But in all seriousness, what I do like about what we're doing now, or we have been doing, if you're at an agency, excuse me, geez, what's wrong with me? You've got your team is your team, and the business is the business. Again, not that you don't have control over parts and pieces of it, but you're not, a lot of it's out of your hands. And what I like about what we're doing now is we get to work with kind of friends to a certain degree. And then every once in a while, someone from a former life or former, work life will call and pop up. And if I was working at agency X, chances are that probably wouldn't happen just because,
so-and-so didn't like so-and-so, or so-and-so did this while they were there, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
there's probably a little bit of that, and there's also just, when you're doing your own thing and other groups are doing their own thing, there's a lot more flexibility and freedom in terms of, hey, maybe Patrick or Heather can help on this project. We need a brand person, or we need a developer, or whatever the case is. But it's kind of fun not revisiting, but being reintroduced or reconnecting with people that you haven't worked with in years. And, it'd be nice to think that, hey, socially, I can just always reach out to these people. And yeah, you can, but sometimes it's hard to, just drops. It's not hard, but it's people are busy, and you're going on, you move, you change jobs, people get married, get divorced, whatever, have kids, whatever the life circumstances, and you just kind of drift. And so the one thing I like about business in general is it gives a reason to kind of reconnect with people that maybe you've lost touch with, and so that's it's fun. It's kind of neat to see where people have gone and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's it. That's all I got.
Cool. I like it. It's funny. All I could think of when you said that, and we might have to edit this part out, but the like one business contact through all this, and I was like, oh, we'll be friends afterwards. Of course. I've totally lost touch with. Nothing. Still.
We don't need it. It's okay.
Yeah. So sometimes yes, sometimes no. But anyways. Anyways.
Yep. Well, you never know.
You never know.
So it's always a good idea to be nice to everybody.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. God. Yeah. I wouldn't. I'm always nice to everybody. I would never change that, anyways.
Yeah. Yep.
Do my best.
Yeah. So I try to too. I've made my fair share of burning bridges with mistakes, and don't want to do that anymore. So
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. That was more positive than I thought it would be overall.
I'm just full of positivity. Come on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Yes. Forgot about that.
Yeah. The negatives could go really deep, but on a high level, that's really what they are. So.
Well, you sound grateful. Really, you sound grateful.
I am very grateful.
I can tell.
Yeah.
I can tell. That's good. That's good.
So on your side of things, what's been the? Should we do challenges? Let's just start with the challenges first. Let's go start with the hard part.
I think it'll flow better if I start with rewards first.
Sure. Okay.
Because the rewards is kind of the basis, right? And a lot of this stuff sounds just like your perspective on it. I think I hadn't really thought about this, but the comparison to past life, like why do I like this better than corporate world, which is where I come from, and not in agency corporate world. Like came from making toilet paper, corporate world. I think the biggest gripe that I had while I was there was...
Can you explain that really quick?
What?
Making toilet paper for our four listeners.
I made toilet paper? I managed a toilet paper converting line. That was my life Procter & Gamble brought in new engineers to... first 2 years you're assigned to for me it was Charmin, so you're assigned to a toilet paper converting line, converting is huge big roll of toilet paper that comes out of paper making. That's I want to say typical diameter was 84 inches or so, if I'm not mistaken, and 100 inches. No, God, what was the width? I'm going to blank on the width. 100 inches wide, maybe. Yeah. We'll make up numbers.
Right.
And so my department took it from this huge, big roll of toilet paper to first we made it into logs of toilet paper, and then we cut it into rolls, and then we put it in a wrapper, the plastic, and then we put it in a case that eventually went to Walmart.
Yeah.
So that was what I did. First couple of years is about finding
And that wasn't fulfilling?
No. I mean, there's parts of it that are cool. I'll say that. There's parts of it that are it's neat. Sure. It's neat to understand the process, whatever. Sure. Actually, the first role there is not all bad, because what they do is say, hey, we've got these, 3, 4, 5, 6 opportunities. The equipment, the wrapper keeps breaking down. At the L. I can't remember if that's the right term or not, but there was a corner, a 90-degree angle or whatever, that things would always get stuck in. They call it a stop. Be like, hey, we have really, really high stops in this area. Help us figure out why it is. So what would you do? You'd go out there and you'd watch, and you'd take data on motor temperatures and belt wear and all this stuff, and you'd help figure out, okay, what's going wrong, and you think you'd fix it, so you'd try your test. Did this really fix it? Blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So that part was kind of fun, just the solving these little problems through the process. But then after 2 years, they transitioned engineers to managers right away. And so I was 23, I think, when I got promoted to line leader. And I had 40 employees reporting to me, of which the youngest was 35. So it was just a really awkward situation. And that spot, you're responsible for all the safety results, quality results, reliability, improvement projects, all that stuff. You're like the boss. And at 23, it just creates a really weird dynamic. I always felt like I didn't have the right to be in that spot, right? I don't have the experience to know all the answers, to manage people this much older than me and more experienced than me. It was just a really awkward time. But so it seemed like results were measured based on, it was shift work. So operators, there was a 30-minute overlap on either end, but their day was 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. And if you made it, I think we called it team meeting. If you were at the morning team meeting at 6 a.m. and you were at the night team meeting at 6 p.m., you were stellar.
High performer.
Oh, heck yeah. Because you made it to both team meetings, you're invested, you're willing to help turn over. And I had a little bit different perspective. I was like, you know what? How about we get people capable, the team leaders, because there were team leaders on each of these teams. Why not get the team leaders capable of turning things over on their own and knowing what they're responsible for, versus me working 13-hour days every day. So I think it was the reward system seemed flawed to me. I didn't see people getting rewarded for the right things. We didn't often get to pick the improvements that we thought were going to help the most. Instead, we were kind of told, well, this is important to leadership right now. It's about this month. It's really important that we have all our tools organized and there's outlines drawn around each one so that people can find them and replace them really quick. And I was like, I get that that's important, but is that the most important thing right now? No, it's not. We've got this other big issue that we're just making people paint white lines around things instead of fixing a bigger issue. So,
it's going to be an all-day job for somebody.
It was. Yeah. It was just none of it made sense to me. So I just struggled. I constantly had this just internal struggle with, is the work I'm doing even meaning anything? I was making great money, had great benefits, You know, life after work was awesome, but it just, it felt empty. Right. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Bring it back. Bring it back to that.
What's that?
So I'm bringing you back.
Yes.
Bring it back to.
It was all empty. So what do I like about now is that we're in total control of that. Is that I don't have to answer to anybody else and what's important, and it's not about hours worked, although we probably work more hours now, but it is about what do we know will make the biggest impact for somebody versus what somebody else says will make the biggest impact. So that's the P&G part. The other part is just general control, flexibility, whatever, over schedule and above. If it's a lot of project clients, whatever, require us to be around and available, nights, weekends, whatever, totally happy to do it. But sometimes there's a Thursday morning that you don't feel like getting out of bed until 9 or 10, and that's okay too. Like I like that part of it, that there's not these set work hours all the time. So I think that's really the reward part of it. I don't know. I guess there's parts of like, hey, we get to do the type of work we want to do, which is fine, but everybody should be doing that, I think. If you're really doing something you don't like doing. If
you start your own business and you're doing something you don't want to do.
Yeah, it's just, why would you do it? Like, that was kind of an obvious one to me. Income is okay. Like, it's probably not as much or as reliable as what you'd make working for a bigger company or corporation, but it's probably nothing. You have the same thing. You have a little more control of that too. If you're willing to put more time or effort into it, you have a little bit of control over your income versus somebody just saying, oh, you're in this tier now, so you're going to make this much, and our raises are typically 2% every year, and if you perform better, work more hours, you get 3%, all that crap. You're not like tied into this system. It is literally if you put more time in and do better work, you make more money. And that part of it's kind of cool. Yeah. So I think that's the rewards part of it. Challenge, and now I feel like really bad talking about challenges because I think about those rewards. Like they're actually pretty good. Like I wouldn't turn that stuff in for almost any challenge. I think based on all those rewards of running an agency, starting your own business, whatever, the challenges that come along with all of it are things that you've just got to overcome if that's really the what's important to you. What did I put on there? Now I have to.
So for the kid out there who's 22 and he's going to start his own company, or girl, guy or girl.
The part to be prepared for the most?
Yeah. Say he's 30. We'll go with 30.
Wow. Which one?
Just go down the list. It doesn't matter.
I want to be like, I don't, so the list is good, but the list is maybe not perfect. I think cash flow has been probably the hardest thing overall to deal with. So when work is steady and you're working a lot of hours, you're doing great work, and generally clients are paying, it still doesn't mean that you're always going to have a lot of money in the bank. The realistic side of it is that some people or some clients, some do pay quick. I have some that I'll send an invoice and I'll have PayPal money or Stripe money in 3 days. The reality is actually the bigger you get, it seems like,
the longer.
Yeah, you're working with nonprofit organizations, you're working with corporations where payment terms are 60 days, 90 days, whatever. It's tough to cover. You've put in a ton of time on the front end. You might be done with the project before you get paid for it or even get to bill for it, and it's even a longer wait. So then when you want to go invest because you've got all these new skills under your belt or and maybe you've got a bunch of new volume that you want to handle and you want to hire somebody, there's not always a cash around to do it, even though it shows up as accounts receivable. You've got money coming at some point, you just don't really know when. That's been the toughest part to deal with, is when to be comfortable with investing in growth or hiring somebody or a new software or whatever versus just working even harder just by yourself to try to make ends meet. I think we're getting more comfortable with taking that risk and saying, okay, we know that there's going to be this little dip for 6 months while we bring on another couple people to handle the volume, to free us up to go get more business. We're going to have to take this little dip in time and dip in cash to make that happen, but it's because it's going to pay off 18 months down the road in more revenue and hopefully profit, and everybody wins. Mm-hmm. But that's been the toughest it's been the pure business side of things that has been toughest to deal with.
Yeah. That's it?
I think so. Like, there's other little...
There's 100 things tied into that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of little things, right. But that, like, what do I not sleep about at night?
But with bad cash flow or cash flow that's not consistent, then everything else, the gears start to grind a little bit harder. So, totally, yeah.
Yeah, it's the toughest part, I'd say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Gotta get those clients paying. I'll answer the same question I asked you. What would you tell someone younger? I think the one thing that I don't know if I'd call it a mistake, but the one thing that the lesson learned, I'm going to do it all over again, is, or one of them, one among many, is I couldn't see how that would be an issue. I thought, well, you do the work, you get paid. You do the work, you sign an invoice, you get paid.
Getting started.
Yeah, and it should just be like this normal, pattern. Why is cash flow such a big deal? And our expenses are low, and it's not like it should be this big hurdle. But when you're starting out, or even 6, 7, 8 years into this stuff, it is a massive hurdle. And just from my number one headache is invoicing or counting, and that it ties back to that cash flow thing. It's one of these issues because I'm busy doing the work or managing people or meeting with clients or whatever it is. Accounting always falls. You get a whole bunch of work done for 3 or 4 months. Maybe you've worked on it, one of those websites that take 100 days or whatever it ends up being. And then you wait till the end of the month to do some billing, and maybe you don't get to all your invoices, so you wait maybe another 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden it's another 90 days before you get paid. All of a sudden it's a year, before the work you did. So it's a stretch. And yes, you could do a 50% deposit, and when we do that stuff, but it's stretched out a long time. So my point is having someone to really manage that part of the business for you could be huge, and they should be able to pay for themselves over time. It's a very valuable thing, because I thought I could do everything myself, and I can't. Clearly I can't. But in the beginning you think you can, then all of a sudden there's some threshold you cross, and I don't know what the dollar amount is, and it might be different in every business, but you pass a threshold and you just can't keep your arms around it anymore.
Right.
So
it's tough.
Anyway, yep.
So we're working on it.
Yeah. Cash flow. But other than that, everything's utopian dreamy.
Okay. Yep, exactly.
Well, that's probably good for now.
I think that's good.
Yeah, that was a good one. So get your cash flow set up, kids. Well, with that, we'd like to thank our sponsor, P&G, and look forward to another episode soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for listening.